This is going to be a quick fudge sampling demo. As anybody doing fudge knows, it's really important to make sure you cut the samples to a size that's not going to overstimulate the customer's taste buds because it is so rich. So we're going to go over how to prep your fudge, how to cut it, and just kind of give you an idea with each individual flavor. As you can see here, most of the flavors are already prepped. When you get your loaf out in the morning, though, this is how you're going to take care of it. So what happens to fudge is it actually oxidizes, so it gets sort of like a film on it and it's kind of crispy. So the first thing you want to do in the morning is you want to shave off a tiny little piece of it to make sure that that oxidization is not being fed to the members. So you just want to take off something literally like a millimeter thick just to make sure that that's not being fed to the members, okay? Once you've done that, you're going to go ahead and cut your slab that you're going to actually sample from. When you do this, it's really important to try to make sure that it's even all the way down. Once you get your piece off, you're going to cut off the oxidization from all the edges. And then we're going to talk about how to cut each individual flavor to make sure that you're maximizing on the flavors as well as making sure we're not putting out too many samples. It's also important to keep the samples small so we're keeping the financial cost of the program down. So it's really important to make sure you're doing this effectively. Effective sampling can absolutely affect your sales as well. So with the chocolate and vanilla, for example, we're going to go ahead and fold this in half. All right, as you can see, it's very, very thick and it's very wide. So what we want to do is we actually want to cut this in half again so we can get that nice nickel size that we want. So I'm going to go ahead and put that one back up on the block, but you can see there's chocolate and vanilla equally. So when you're cutting the fudge for the members, you want to cut it about the size of a nickel, and that's exactly the size that you want to be serving to the members for this flavor. Okay, we're going to do the same thing with the regular chocolate. Cut it in half. All right, you're going to use both pieces to sample from. And you're going to cut these again about the size of a nickel, and that's the size you should be sampling from of the chocolate. Okay, so there's the chocolate and vanilla. On the coconut, it's a little bit shorter, so we're essentially going to do the same thing just to be sure. Cut it in half again. You're going to get 2 sample lines out of it. Cut it about the size of a nickel, and that's going to be your sample size right there. So those 3 are going to be exactly the same. Now the ones with the nuts are a little more complicated, so we're going to take these ones slowly. Because the pecan caramel goes the fastest and is the most difficult to cut, as you can see, it is very thick in comparison to the other slivers, simply because it's harder to cut because of the nuts. So what we want to do with this one in order to maximize on the samples we're getting from it is first we're going to cut it in half like we did with the others, okay? And we're actually going to cut the caramel in half. And we're going to take that bit of caramel that we got off the end and we're going to stick it to this end. All you're going to do is press it together. That way, out of one cut, you've got 2 sets of samples. Both with caramel, both with pecans. So it's equally as fair for each member. Because of the caramel and we want to have it on the top of each piece, we're going to cut these ones a little thinner. And that's going to be your sample right there. So you've got the caramel, the pecan, and the chocolate. All right, we're going to move on to the chocolate walnut. The chocolate walnut we're going to cut more similarly to the other flavors. We're going to cut this one in half. Okay, and again, this is a harder one, so you want to cut it about the size of a nickel, a little thinner, and you want to make sure there's walnuts in each piece. If you're giving somebody a piece that has no walnuts like this, you want to start over and get another sample with the walnuts. That's the point of the flavor. Okay, and last but not least, we're going to get to the peanut butter. Again, another one we're going to cut the same. We're going to go ahead and cut it in half. And you're going to go ahead and cut off a sample size piece the size of a nickel. Again, we want to be really careful to make sure that there's actually peanut butter in the piece. So if you've got a piece like this, there's no peanut butter in it, that's not the one you want. Now the peanut butter is infused within the chocolate as well, but a lot of members will complain that they didn't taste the peanut butter. So guys, that's our sampling demo for today. If you want to take a look one more time. So cut it in half, that's your sample size. Cut it in half, that's your sample size. Cut it in half, add the caramel to the bottom, that's your sample size. You get double the samples out of this one. This one's really important. Please pay attention to that one. With the coconut, you're going to cut it in half, that's your sample size. You're going to cut this, fold it in half, cut it in half, that's your sample size, okay? And this one, you're going to cut it in half, and again, that's your sample size. So I hope this certainly helps anybody watching the video. Please take this into account and make sure you're sampling effectively. Have a great day.